All right, VV Nation, welcome. It is Nvidia's earnings call, the moment we've all been waiting for. Look at Nvidia right now, just creeped past 194. Looks like the options market pretty accurate, right? Right about in that range, just shy of the 7% move right now. Now, it did get a little bit higher. Let's go ahead and look at the intraday movement here. Look at that. Looks like the high was off this candlestick here, just a big upper wick, a little bit of volatility. But it looks like the range is still going to be around 194. All right, everybody's making their way into the room. I see the viewership, the alert just hit. All right, let's get into it. Let me jump right over to this article. We'll run the numbers real quick. The earnings call will begin in 14 minutes. So stick around for that. All right, Nvidia shares rise on stronger than expected revenue, right? We weren't, at least me, I wasn't too concerned about the revenue, the forecast, the forward guidance. That's what we want to hear. Nvidia reported fiscal third quarter earnings Wednesday that topped Wall Street expectations for sales and earnings and provided stronger than expected guidance for the fourth quarter sales. As I scroll down, let's get the numbers here. All right, earnings per share came in at 130 compared to the 125 estimate, while revenue topping $57 billion. Estimates were just shy of $55 billion. All right, let me catch up with the comment section here. We got some side plays. Warren says, thanks for staying late. Thank you, Warren. Thank you for everyone for attending. Joey's staying late here. He's here as well. Like I said, the earnings call will begin in about 13 minutes, and we'll see what happens there. All right, VV family, Nvidia is finally making me rich again. Alfreda. Hey, Troy, how are we doing? We got CD drive. Bill says the upper wick may have been someone unwisely placing a market order. I have a feeling, and it's after hours, so obviously you get some weird wicks there and weird orders in after hours. Mike says sandbagging, right? I feel like the estimates, they've always been sandbagging. They always beat, right? So that's not the surprise, right? Any kind of continuation is really going to be the guidance. And, we all want Jensen Huang to kind of relieve some of these AI bubble fears, right? Does he have it in him to do it? We're going to find out in just a moment. And I'm not willing to bet against the guy himself. Now, just breaking this down a little bit, Nvidia said it expects about $65 billion in sales in the current quarter, right? Now, that would be about $143 on the earnings per share on $61 billion of revenue. So they're expecting, revenue this quarter here to beat it by about just over $3 billion. Nvidia had net income of the quarter, $130 per share diluted. That was up 65% from $19.31 billion or 78 cents per diluted. Just a year ago, 78 cents, 65%. It's a big jump here. Nvidia has become the most valuable publicly traded company, mostly on insatiable demand for its AI chips called GPUs. We all know about the GPUs, right? Nvidia counts Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Oracle, and Meta as customers. Its chips are used by all the leading AI companies to develop new models and new technology, right? And this is where the concern comes, right? All these names, and you can add a couple other ones, right? The circulation of the revenue, And I said it on the live stream before. Now, if Nvidia was way overvalued compared to the VectorVest metrics, yes, I'd be much more concerned about Nvidia. Now, are there pockets of some overvalued AI spots out there? Yeah, there are. There are, right? Let's see here. They are sold out. End of story. Yep, they're sold out. I even said that on the live stream, right? For every 12 GPU units, I think it's the Blackwells, according to the article, there's only one available, right? For every 12 in demand, there's only one available. And heck, even if there's, even the ratio was 7-to-1, I'd still be enthusiastic, right? So as long as that demand is still there, I'm not going to be too worried about Nvidia per se, right? Now, as we go down here, its chips are used by all the leading AI companies to develop new models and technology, right? That's why we're having all these data centers. That's why you got the uranium, the small module reactor plays, right? You know, the data center plays themselves, like the CoreWeave, the NBIS, the iron, you know, even some of the Bitcoin miners moving over to it, right? And they're leasing out these GPUs. That's all the whole business is, you know, is these GPUs. Now, NVIDIA's most important business is its data center sales. I've talked about this, and I even say that for AMD. You know, for AMD to really propel its market cap closer to $1 trillion, or you know, maybe one day get over, it's all about the data center sales. You know, personal gaming, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know, it's important, but you know, for this to propel it. Going forward, it's all about data center sales. Look, $51.2 billion in data center sales, surpassing analyst expectations of $49 billion. So that's good. That's healthy, right? 66% rise on a year-over-year basis. Of that, $43 billion in revenue was for compute, or the company's GPUs. Networking allows the scores of GPUs to work as one computer, accounted for $8.2 billion in data center sales. That's a lot, right? So you can see why the data centers is just so much important to them. Ryan, why are people calling it the AI bubble? Should we be worried? You know, I'm not going to say you shouldn't be worried, but you know, we've done some videos. We talked about it before. You know, it kind of started with the Michael Burry, you know, shorting Palantir, you know, and Nvidia bought puts, and then obviously the circulation, the revenue. Circulation. So there are some concerns out there. You know, whether or not, you know, my opinion's a small peon, right? People want to hear from Jensen Huang. They want to get confidence from him, right? Now the numbers look good so far. The numbers look really good. And I even talked about it, you know, with Cisco doing their vending model as well, which is simply what Nvidia is doing, right? You know, paying for a lot of its, you know, partnerships. Before the AI boom, NVIDIA was best known for making chips, you know, video games, obviously, that's where they came from. Let's see your professional visualization. But this right here is important. The company has also highlighted robotics as one of its most important growth areas. Third quarter automotive and robotics sales totaled $592 million, up 32% on an annual basis. I know those numbers, much smaller than the data centers, right? The robotics could be a huge growth driver for this, right? Now, obviously, we're waiting on the right robotics company to give us that robot that everybody wants, that can complete daily tasks, things of that nature. But robotics, from a personal standpoint, even from an industrial standpoint, could be a huge growth area for NVIDIA going forward. All right, we've got about 7 minutes left, so we're gonna jump right over here. That's the Q4. So it's loading right now. Let's take a look at the chart here. All right, here's the VectorVest graph. Here's NVIDIA. Was it 193? Kind of stalled out right now. Now, if we go back to the VectorVest 7 software, if you don't have access to the software, right now we are doing a Black Friday special, 99 cents. Cheaper than a cup of coffee. And I'm going to tell you right now why now could be a great time to get access to the software. And normally I don't show this, but the market timing, these indicators here, MTI, BSR, buy-sell ratio. Now, historically, buy-sell ratio, once it gets down to 0.2, MTI gets into the 0.6s, it's usually when the market looks for a bottom or starts looking for a bottom, right? Not saying that the bottom is in. We haven't gotten the confirmation to the upside we're looking for, and it's still way too early to tell on the NVIDIA thing. But if you're thinking about taking out a trial, not only is it probably the cheapest time of the year, 99 cents, but it's probably going to want to be the better opportunities. Other than, like back in March and April, during the tariff turmoil, now would be a good time to do it. So whether, if you really want to take your financial journey to the next level in 2026, just take out the trial. It's vectorvest.com/YT, 99 cents. But I've been talking about this. With the potential for a Santa rally, these proprietary market timing indicators giving us some inclination that that is a possibility. So too early to tell, but NVIDIA, bringing us back to NVIDIA's earnings, could be the catalyst for that, right? So we're going to keep you on the right side of the trade, on the right side of the market going forward. But right now, just with the 3 yellow lights across the board here, taking a breather from some of this downside action, I do like this. So, just from a market perspective here, You know, this is not the only time Nvidia's had to come in at a crucial point. You know, when it comes to the market to try to save it, right? Because, you know, if we got a gap down or if Nvidia didn't deliver, you know, at least as far as these numbers, you know, we could have just been at the beginning of the market trying to find a bottom, right? But right now with these levels, that does give me some optimism that there could be some good buying opportunities in the near horizon, right? We're already seeing, look at the Midas touch stocks here, Micron, Argent, AMD. We'll notice one good sign here. They're not dominated by gold stocks, right? I know gold's been hot this year, but the fact that we're seeing some more tech stocks into the list here, that's good, right? We even see Eli Lilly here. So these are good signs. Ryan, all but one of our positions are up after hours. And see, that's good, right? I mean, and I also did talk about this yesterday. Or sorry, earlier today. Come tomorrow, if we get any kind of, you know, real momentum with the bulls, and again, if anyone can bring it, it's Jensen and Nvidia, right? We'd have 3 yellow lights coming off of. That can give us the potential for some green lights tomorrow. Now, BSR being so low, I'm not going to count on that one. But RT, it'd have to be a big jump, not so much. But price column, if we get a green light, that would be good. Now, I will say we do see some optimism in the market after Nvidia's earnings. Going forward, we've got some red lights here, right? So that means there's going to be a period, even if we see you know, some enthusiasm in the market, we're not going to get green lights because you can't go from a red light to a green light in a 5-day period. So, you know, so no matter how far the market sold off today, you couldn't have a red light today because it was green 5 days ago, right? So you can see if the market does start rallying and you see a lack of green lights, it's not necessarily saying that the market's not showing enthusiasm. It's just saying that, hey, it's so close to this volatile red level that we're not going to give it a green light. You know, we're going to put it in a transitional period. All right, we got about 3 minutes left here. Let's see here. Wow, even Rigetti, IO, and Q popped. Nice. But like I said, I mean, Nvidia, I mean, that's really going to help lift all tech. You know, you probably throw a dart at a tech stock right now, and it's most likely up, right? You know, especially aftermarket. So, Bill, I'm not going to be too surprised. Green tomorrow through, though possible. Yes, there is green possible tomorrow when it comes to the price column. Potentially to the RT. I'm not going to say no. You know, if there's a big jump, RT could jump above 1. BSR, I mean, it would have to be such an astronomical rally for BSR to go back above 1. I'm going to probably put that in the very unlikely category. But if it does, that would only give me more confidence, right? So we'll see how the market reacts really to tomorrow. If we go back over to the chart here, we've got about 2 minutes left. Oh, I got it on a separate window here. Still hovering around that 194. I did mention, you know, the options market. We did take a look at some analysts out there, but because of certain options out there, there's kind of a barrier right around $200. But if we can break that, there's some February contracts out there. That's getting pretty bullish. You know, they're putting a price target around $210, according to those analysts that we were taking a look at earlier. But Nvidia, hey, it's hard to bet against it. So let's move this over to the right. Let's jump in here. I guess that should load here any second. We got about 2 minutes left. See if at the reload page. Play lobby music. We want the lobby music? Well, all right. Good idea, Joey. That's why I got you here, bud. You're the captain of this ship. I'm just your first mate. I'm your first mate. Your skipper. I upgraded from skipper. All right. So we got some nice, lovely background music there. Love it. The market was waiting on the largest company in the world to report. Time for Santa. Mike, you know, not necessarily going to lie. And I really think just with all the AI, you know, bubble concerns, and I think, me personally, I think it's a little too early to tell as far as an AI bubble. There's clearly, when we pull up some stocks in the AI realm and they're trading, you know, astronomically above, you know, even our valuation, yeah, that has me some concern for some positions there. But when you look at the big players like Taiwan Semiconductor, you know, Nvidia, AMD is going to be slightly overvalued after ChatGPT, but you know, look at Micron, Nvidia, TSM, all fairly to undervalued stocks here. All right. Akshaya says, Ryan, what do you think? Buy Nvidia now or tomorrow? Akshaya, I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm going to leave that one up to you. I would say buying it now is very aggressive.
My name is Sarah, and
Here
I will
we
be
go.
your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to NVIDIA's third quarter earnings call. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer
TSM
session.
up 2%.
If you would like to ask
Nice.
a question during this time, simply press star, followed by the number 1 on your telephone
All right, that
keypad.
earnings call is going to be kicking
If you
off
would
here
like
in
to
just a
withdraw
minute
your
after this lady
question,
talks.
press
Go
star
ahead
1
and
again.
hit that
Thank
like
you.
button, hit that subscribe
Hari,
button. We
you
can
may
get this
begin your
party
conference.
started.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to NVIDIA's conference call for the third quarter of fiscal 2026. With me today from NVIDIA are Jensen Huang, President and Chief Executive Officer, and Colette Kress, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. I'd like to remind you that our call is being webcast live on NVIDIA's Investor Relations website. The webcast will be available for replay until the conference call to discuss our financial results for the fourth quarter of fiscal 2026. The content of today's call is NVIDIA's property. It can't be reproduced or transcribed without our prior written consent. During this call, we may make forward-looking statements based on current expectations. These are subject to a number of significant risks and uncertainties, and our actual results may differ materially. For a discussion of factors that could affect our future financial results and business, please refer to the disclosure in today's earnings release, our most recent Forms 10-K and 10-Q, and the reports that we may file on Form 8-K with the Securities and Exchange Commission. All our statements are made as of today, November 19th, 2025, based on information currently available to us. Except as required by law, we assume no obligation to update any such statements. During this call, we will discuss non-GAAP financial measures. You can find a reconciliation of these non-GAAP financial measures to GAAP financial measures in our CFO commentary, which is posted on our website. With that, let me turn the call over to Colette.
Thank you, Toshiya. We delivered another outstanding quarter with revenue of $57 billion, up 62% year over year, and a record sequential revenue growth of $10 billion or 22%. Our customers continue to lean into 3 platform shifts, fueling exponential growth for accelerated computing, powerful AI models, and agentic applications. Yet we are still in the early innings of these transitions that will impact our work across every industry. We currently have visibility to $500 billion in Blackwell and Rubin revenue from the start of this year through the end of calendar year 2026. By executing our annual product cadence and extending our performance leadership through full stack design, we believe NVIDIA will be the superior choice for the $3 to $4 trillion in annual AI infrastructure build we estimate by the end of the decade.
I love the smell it puts in the
Demand for AI infrastructure continues to exceed our expectations. The clouds are sold out, and our GPU installed base, both new and previous generations, including Blackwell, Hopper, and Ampere, is fully utilized. Record Q3 data center revenue of $51 billion increased 66% year over year, a significant feat at our scale. Compute grew 56% year over year, driven primarily by the GB300 ramp, while networking more than doubled given the onset of NVLink scale-up and robust double-digit growth across Spectrum X Ethernet and Quantum X InfiniBand. The world hyperscalers, a $1 trillion industry, are transforming search, recommendations, and content understanding from classical machine learning to generative AI. NVIDIA CUDA excels at both and is the ideal platform for this transition, driving infrastructure investment measured in hundreds of billions of dollars. At Meta, AI recommendation systems are delivering higher quality and more relevant content, leading to more time spent on apps such as Facebook and Threads.
Jesus.
Analyst expectations for the top CSPs and hyperscalers in 2026 aggregate capex have continued to increase and now sit roughly at $600 billion, more than $200 billion higher relative to the start of the year. We see the transition to accelerated computing and generative AI across current hyperscale workloads contributing toward roughly half of our long-term opportunity. Another growth pillar is the ongoing increase in compute spend driven by foundation model builders such as Anthropic, Mistral, OpenAI, Reflection, Safe Superintelligence, Thinking Machines Lab, and xAI, all scaling compute aggressively to scale intelligence. The three scaling laws, pre-training, post-training, and inference, remain intact. In fact, we see a positive virtuous cycle emerging whereby the three scaling laws and access to compute are generating better intelligence and in turn increasing adoption and profits. OpenAI recently shared that their weekly user base has grown to 800 million. Enterprise customers has increased to 1 million, and that their gross margins were healthy. While Anthropic recently reported that its annualized run rate revenue has reached $7 billion as of last month, up from $1 billion at the start of the year. We are also witnessing a proliferation of agentic AI across various industries and tasks. Companies such as Cursor, Anthropic, OpenEvidence, Epic, and Abridge are experiencing a surge in user growth as they supercharge the existing workforce, delivering unquestionable ROI.
Nvidia is going to help bring up a whole lot of those AI stocks, right? So be surprised
the world's
if you see a big
most important enterprise software platforms like ServiceNow, CrowdStrike, and SAP are integrating NVIDIA's accelerated computing and AI stack. Our new partner, Palantir, is supercharging the incredibly popular ontology platform with NVIDIA CUDA-X libraries and AI models for the first time. Previously, like most enterprise software platforms, ontology runs only on CPUs. Lowe's is leveraging the platform to build supply chain agility, reducing costs and improving customer satisfaction. Enterprises broadly are leveraging AI to boost productivity, increase efficiency, and reduce cost. RBC is leveraging agentic AI to drive significant analyst productivity, slashing report generation time from hours to minutes. AI and digital twins are helping Unilever accelerate content creation by 2x and cut costs by 50%. And Salesforce's engineering team has seen at least 30% productivity increase in new code development after adopting Cursor. This past quarter, we announced AI factory and infrastructure projects amounting to an aggregate of 5 million GPUs. This demand spans every market: CSPs, sovereigns, model builders, enterprises, and supercomputing centers, and includes multiple landmark buildouts. xAI's Colossus II, the world's first gigawatt-scale data center. Lilly's AI factory for drug discovery, the pharmaceutical industry's most powerful data center. And just today, AWS and Humane expanded their partnership, including the deployment of up to 150,000 AI accelerators, including our GB300. xAI and Humane also announced a partnership in which the two will jointly develop a network of world-class GPU data centers anchored by the flagship 500-megawatt facility. Blackwell gained further momentum in Q3 as GB300 crossed over GB200 and contributed roughly 2/3 of the total Blackwell revenue. The transition to GB300 has been seamless, with production shipments to the major cloud service providers, hyperscalers, and GPU clouds, and is already driving their growth. The Hopper platform, in its 13th quarter since inception, recorded approximately $2 billion in revenue in Q3. H20 sales were approximately $50 million. Sizable purchase orders never materialized in the quarter due to geopolitical issues and the increasingly competitive market in China.
197.
While we
hit
were disappointed
198?
in the current state that prevents us from shipping more competitive data center compute products to China, we are committed to continued engagement with the U.S. and China governments and will continue to advocate for America's ability to compete around the world. To establish a sustainable leadership position in AI computing, America must win the support of every developer and be the platform of choice for every commercial business, including those in China. The Rubin platform is on track to ramp in the second half of 2026. Powered by 7 chips, the Vera Rubin platform will once again deliver an X-factor improvement in performance relative to Blackwell. We have received silicon back from our supply chain partners and are happy to report that NVIDIA teams across the world are executing the bring up beautifully. Rubin is our 3rd generation rack scale system, substantially redefined the manufacturability while remaining compatible with Grace Blackwell. Our supply chain, data center ecosystem, and cloud partners have now mastered the build-to installation process of NVIDIA's rack architecture. Our ecosystem will be ready for a fast Rubin ramp. Our annual X-Factor performance leap increases performance per dollar
even that bill,
while driving
SPY,
down
QQQ,
computing costs for our customers.
My brokerage, you only
the long useful life of NVIDIA's CUDA GPUs is a significant TCO advantage over accelerators. CUDA's compatibility and our massive installed base extend the life of NVIDIA systems well beyond their original estimated useful life. For more than 2 decades, we have optimized the CUDA ecosystem, improving existing workloads, accelerating new ones, and increasing throughput with every software release. Most accelerators without CUDA and NVIDIA's time-tested and
red
versatile
candlestick is when she was talking about
architecture
China.
Became obsolete within a few years as model technologies evolve. Thanks to CUDA, the A100 GPUs we shipped 6 years ago are still running at full utilization today, powered by vastly improved software
6 years ago, because that's addressing that whole Michael Burry depreciation thesis.
From a gaming GPU company to now
because of the
AI
CUDA software,
infrastructure
that's
company.
why they're not having to write
Our
them off.
ability to innovate across the CPU, the GPU, networking, and software, and ultimately drive down cost per token is unmatched across the industry. Our networking business, purpose-built for AI, and now the largest
But did
in
y'all
the
hear
world,
that about the
generated
Grace Hopper
revenue
100
of
6 years
$8.2
ago?
billion,
There's,
up
because of CUDA, they're still in effect.
162% year over year, with NVLink, InfiniBand, and Spectrum X Ethernet all contributing to growth. We are winning in data center networking as the majority of AI deployments now include our switches with Ethernet GPU attach rates roughly on par with InfiniBand. Meta, Microsoft, Oracle, and xAI are building gigawatt AI factories with Spectrum X Ethernet switches, and each will run its operating system of choice, highlighting the flexibility and openness of our platform. We recently introduced Spectrum XGS, a scale-across technology that enables gigascale AI factories. NVIDIA is the only company with AI scale-up, scale-out, and scale-across platforms, reinforcing our unique position in the market as the AI infrastructure provider. Customer interest in NVLink Fusion continues to grow. We announced a strategic collaboration with Fujitsu in October, where we will integrate Fujitsu's CPUs and NVIDIA GPUs via NVLink Fusion, connecting our large ecosystems. We also announced a collaboration with Intel to develop multiple generations of custom data center and PC products connecting NVIDIA
for all those
and
Intel
Intel's
bulls.
ecosystems using NVLink. This week at Supercomputing 25, ARM announced that it will be integrating NVLink IP for customers to build CPU SoCs that connect with NVIDIA. Currently on its 5th generation, NVLink is the only proven scale-up technology available on the market today.
I'm waiting for Jensen to hear his commentary.
In the latest MLPerf training results,
and then shortly after that, we'll probably be rolling
delivered 5x faster time to train than Hopper. NVIDIA swept every benchmark. Notably, NVIDIA is the only training platform to leverage FP4 while meeting the MLPerf's strict accuracy standards. In semi-analysis inference max benchmark, Blackwell achieved the highest performance and lowest total cost of ownership across every model and use case. Particularly important is Blackwell's NVLink's performance on a mixture of experts, the architecture for the world's most popular reasoning models. On DeepSeek R1, Blackwell delivered 10x higher performance per watt and 10x lower cost per token versus H200, a huge generational leap fueled by our extreme co-design approach. NVIDIA Dynamo, an open source, low latency, modular inference framework, has now been adopted by every major cloud service provider, leveraging Dynamo's enablement and disaggregated inference, the resulting increase in performance of complex AI models, such as MOE models, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and OCI, have boosted AI inference performance for enterprise cloud customers. We are working on a strategic partnership with OpenAI, focused on helping them build and deploy at least 10 gigawatts of AI data centers. In addition, we have the opportunity to invest in the company. We serve OpenAI through their cloud partners, Microsoft Azure, OCI, and CoreWeave. We will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. As they continue to scale, we are delighted to support the company to add self-build infrastructure, and we are working toward a definitive agreement and are excited to support OpenAI's growth. Yesterday, we celebrated an announcement with Anthropic. For the first time, Anthropic is adopting NVIDIA, and we are establishing a deep technology partnership to support Anthropic's fast growth. We will collaborate to optimize Anthropic models for CUDA and deliver the best possible performance, efficiency, and TCO. We will also optimize future NVIDIA architectures for Anthropic workloads. Anthropic's compute commitment is initially including up to 1 gigawatt of compute capacity with Grace Blackwell and Vera Rubin systems. Our strategic investments in Anthropic, Mistral, OpenAI, Reflection, Thinking Machines, and other represent partnerships that grow the NVIDIA CUDA AI ecosystem and enable every model to run optimally on NVIDIA's everywhere. We will continue to invest strategically while preserving our disciplined approach to cash flow management. Physical AI is already a multi-billion-dollar business addressing a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity and the next leg of growth for NVIDIA. Leading U.S. manufacturers and robotics innovators are leveraging NVIDIA's 3-computer architecture to train on NVIDIA, test on Omniverse computer, and deploy real-world AI on Jensen robotic computers. PTC and Siemens introduced new services that bring Omniverse-powered digital twin workflows to their extensive installed base of customers. Companies including Belden, Caterpillar, Foxconn, Lucid Motors, Toyota, TSMC, and Wistron are building Omniverse digital twin factories to accelerate AI-driven manufacturing and automation. Agility Robotics, Amazon Robotics,
Bill, I can
Figure,
see that.
and Skilled at AI are building our platform, tapping
But if you remember my
offerings such
article
as NVIDIA
earlier
Cosmos,
today,
World
China's trying to
Foundation
prevent
models
that
for
too.
development, Omniverse for simulation and validation, and Jetson to power next-generation intelligent robots. We remain focused on building resiliency and redundancy in our global supply chain. Last month, in partnership with TSMC, we celebrated the first Blackwell wafer produced on U.S. soil. We will continue to work with Foxconn, Wistron, Amkor, Spill, and others to grow our presence in the U.S. over the next 4 years. Gaming revenue was $4.3 billion, up 30% year on year, driven by strong demand as Blackwell momentum continued. End market sell-through remains robust, and channel inventories are at normal levels heading into the holiday season. Steam recently broke its concurrent user record with 42 million gamers, while thousands of fans packed the GeForce Gamer Festival in South Korea to celebrate 25 years of GeForce. NVIDIA Pro Visualization has evolved into computers for engineers and developers, whether for graphics or for AI. Professional visualization revenue was $760 million, up 56% year over year, was another record. Growth was driven by DGX Spark, the world's smallest AI supercomputer, built on a small configuration of Grace Blackwell. Automotive revenue was $592 million, up 32% year over year, primarily driven by self-driving solutions. We are partnering with Uber to scale the world's largest Level 4 ready autonomous fleet, built on the new NVIDIA Hyperion L4 robotaxi.
The one thing I'm getting from this earnings call,
moving to the rest of the P&L.
Just listen to the amount
GAAP
of
gross margins were 73.4%, and non-GAAP gross margins was 73.6%, exceeding our outlook. Gross margins increased sequentially due to our data center mix, improved cycle time, and cost structure. GAAP operating expenses were up 8% sequentially and up 11% on non-GAAP basis. The growth was driven by infrastructure compute, as well as higher compensation and benefits and engineering development costs. Non-GAAP effective tax rate for the third quarter was just over 17%, higher than our guidance of 16.5% due to the strong U.S.
I remember
revenue.
that, Green Deed,
On our balance sheet, inventory grew 32% quarter over quarter, while supply commitments increased 63% sequentially. We are preparing for significant growth ahead and feel good about our ability to execute against our opportunity set. Okay, let me turn to the outlook for the fourth quarter. Total revenue is expected to be $65 billion, plus or minus 2%. At the midpoint, our outlook implies 14% sequential growth, driven by continued momentum in the Blackwell architecture. Consistent with last quarter, we are not assuming any data center compute revenue from China. GAAP and non-GAAP gross margins are expected to be 74.8% and 75%, respectively,
Joey, what's the
plus or minus 50 basis points.
Logo flying through the background.
Looking ahead to fiscal year 2027, input costs are on the rise, but we are working to hold gross margins in the mid-70s. GAAP and non-GAAP operating expenses are expected to be approximately $6.7 billion and $5 billion, respectively. GAAP and non-GAAP other income and expenses are expected to be an income of approximately $500 million, excluding gains and losses from non-marketable and publicly held equity securities. GAAP and non-GAAP tax rates are expected to be 17%, plus or minus 1%, excluding any discrete items.
There's a lot of companies
at this time. Let me turn the call over
aren't
to
necessarily
Jensen
in that bubble
for him
circle.
to say a few words.
Thanks, Colette.
Here we
There's
go,
been a lot
Jensen,
of talk
finally.
about an AI bubble. From our vantage point, we see something very different. As a reminder, NVIDIA is unlike any other accelerator. We excel at every phase of AI.
Here's Jensen.
From pre-training and post-training to inference.
Inference. That's what you got to pay attention to.
Investment in CUDA acceleration libraries, we are also exceptional at science and engineering simulations, computer graphics, structured data processing, to classical machine learning. The world is undergoing three massive platform shifts at once. The first time since the dawn of Moore's Law. NVIDIA is uniquely addressing each of the three transformations. The first transition is from CPU general purpose computing to GPU accelerated computing, as Moore's Law slows. The world has a massive investment in non-AI software, from data processing to science and engineering simulations, representing hundreds of billions of dollars in cloud computing spend each year. Many of these applications, which ran once exclusively on CPUs, are now rapidly shifting to CUDA GPUs. Accelerated computing has reached a tipping point. Secondly, AI has also reached a tipping point and is transforming existing applications while enabling entirely new ones. For existing applications, generative AI is replacing classical machine learning in search ranking, recommender systems, ad targeting, click-through prediction, to content moderation, the very foundations of hyperscale infrastructure. Meta's GEM, a foundation model for ad recommendations trained on large-scale GPU clusters, exemplifies this shift. In Q2, Meta reported over a 5% increase in ad conversions on Instagram and 3% gain on Facebook feed, driven by generative AI-based GEM. Transitioning to generative AI represents substantial revenue gains for hyperscalers. Now a new wave is rising. Agentic AI systems, capable of reasoning, planning, and using tools. From coding assistants like Cursor and Claude Code to radiology tools like iDoc, legal assistants like Harvey, and AI chauffeurs like Tesla FSD and Waymo. These systems mark the next frontier of computing. The fastest growing companies in the world today, OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, Google, Cursor, Lovable, Replit, Cognition AI, OpenEvidence, Abridge, Tesla, are pioneering agentic AI. So there are three massive platform shifts. The transition to accelerated computing is foundational and necessary, essential in a post-Moore's Law era. The transition to generative AI is transformational and necessary, supercharging existing applications and business models. And the transition to agentic and physical AI will be revolutionary, giving rise to new applications, companies, products, and services. As you consider infrastructure investments, consider these three fundamental dynamics. Each will contribute to infrastructure growth in the coming years. NVIDIA is chosen because our singular architecture enables all three transitions, and thus so for any form and modality of AI, across all industries, across every phase of AI, across all of the diverse computing needs in a cloud, and also from cloud to enterprise to robots. One architecture. Toshiya, back to you.
We will now open the call for questions. Operator, would you please pull for questions?
All right, got a few questions. We'll probably roll it out of here.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. As a reminder, please limit yourself to one question.
Yeah, I talked about Moore's Law,
Thank
Ben,
you.
An old video. We should talk about that again
Your
sometime.
first question comes from Joseph Moore with Morgan Stanley. Your line is open.
Great, thank you. I wonder if you could update us. You talked about the $500 billion of revenue for Blackwell plus Rubin in 25 and 26 at GTC. At that time, you had talked about $150 billion of that already having been shipped. So as the quarter's wrapped up, are those still kind of the general parameters that there's $350 billion in the next kind of, 14 months or so? And, I would assume over that time, you haven't seen all the demand that there is. There's any possibility of upside to those numbers as we move forward?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I'll start first with a response here on that. Yes, that's correct. We are working into our 500 billion forecast, and we are on track for that as we have finished some of the quarters, and now we have several quarters now in front of us to take us through the end of calendar year 26. The number will grow, and we will achieve, I'm sure, additional needs for compute that will be shippable by fiscal year 26. So we shipped 50 billion this quarter, but we would be not finished if we didn't say that we'll probably be taking more orders. For example, just even today, our announcements with KSA, and that agreement in itself is 400 to 600,000 more GPUs over 3 years. Anthropic is also net new. So there's definitely an opportunity for us to have more on top of the 500 billion that we announced.
The next question comes from CJ Muse with Cantor Fitzgerald. Your line is open.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the question. There's clearly a great deal of consternation around the magnitude of AI infrastructure build-outs and the ability to fund such plans and the ROI. Yet, at the same time, you're talking about being sold out. Every stood-up GPU is taken. The AI world hasn't seen the enormous benefit yet, from B300, never mind Rubin. And Gemini 3 just announced Grok 5 coming soon. And so the question is this: when you look at that as the backdrop, do you see a realistic path for supply to catch up with demand over the next 12 to 18 months, or do you think it can extend beyond that time frame?
Well, as you know, we've done a really good job planning our supply chain. NVIDIA's supply chain basically includes every technology company in the world. And TSMC and their packaging and our memory vendors and memory partners and all of our system ODMs have done a really good job planning with us. And we were planning for a big year. We've seen for some time the three transitions that I spoke about just a second ago: accelerated computing from general purpose computing. And it's really important to recognize that AI is not just agentic AI, but generative AI is transforming the way that hyperscalers did the work that they used to do on CPUs. Generative AI made it possible for them to move search and recommender systems and, add recommendations and targeting. All of that has been moved to generative AI, and it's still transitioning. And so whether you installed NVIDIA GPUs for data processing, or you did it for generative AI for your recommender system, or you're building it for agentic chatbots and the type of AIs that most people see when they think about AI, all of those applications are accelerated by NVIDIA. And so when you look at the totality of the spend, it's really important to think about each one of those layers. They're all growing. They're related but not the same. But the wonderful thing is that they all run on NVIDIA GPUs. Simultaneously, because the quality of the AI models are improving so incredibly, the adoption of it in the different use cases, whether it's in code assistance, which NVIDIA uses fairly exhaustively, and we're not the only one. I mean, the fastest growing application in history, combination of Cursor and Claude Code and OpenAI's Codex and GitHub Copilot. These applications are the fastest growing in history. And it's not just used for software engineers. It's used because of vibe coding, it's used by engineers and marketeers all over companies, supply chain planners all over companies. And so I think that that's just one example, and the list goes on, whether it's open evidence and the work that they do in healthcare, or the work that's being done in digital video editing, Runway, and I mean the number of really, really exciting startups that are taking advantage of generative AI and agentic AI is growing quite rapidly. And not to mention, we're all using it a lot more. And so all of these exponentials, not to mention, just today I was reading a text from Demis, and he was saying that pre-training and post-training are fully intact, and Gemini 3 takes advantage of the scaling laws and received a huge jump in quality performance, model performance. And so we're seeing all of these exponentials kind of running at the same time, and just always go back to first principles and think about what's happening from each one of the dynamics that I mentioned before. General purpose computing to accelerated computing, generative AI replacing classical machine learning, and of course agentic AI, which is a brand new category.
The next question comes from Vivek Arya with Bank of America Securities. Your line is open.
Thanks for taking my question. I'm curious, what assumptions are you making on NVIDIA content per gigawatt in that 500 billion number? Because we have heard numbers as low as 25 billion per gigawatt of content to as high as 30 or 40 billion per gigawatt. So I'm curious what power and what dollar per gigawatt assumptions you are making as part of that 500 billion number. And then longer term, Jensen, the 3 to 4 trillion in data center by 2030 was mentioned. How much of that do you think will require vendor financing, and how much of that can be supported by cash flows of your large customers or governments or enterprises? Thank you.
In each generation, from Ampere to Hopper, from Hopper to Blackwell, Blackwell to Rubin, our part of the data center increases, and Hopper generation was probably something along the lines of 20 to 25. Blackwell generation, Grace Blackwell particularly, is probably 30 to 30, say 30 plus or minus, and then Rubin is probably higher than that. And in each one of these generations, the speed up is X factors, and therefore their TCO, the customer TCO, improves by X factors. And the most important thing is, in the end, you still only have 1 gigawatt of power. 1 gigawatt data centers, 1 gigawatt power, and therefore performance per watt, the efficiency of your architecture, is incredibly important. And the efficiency of your architecture can't be brute forced. There is no brute forcing about it. That 1 gigawatt translates directly, your performance per watt translates directly, absolutely directly to your revenues, which is the reason why choosing the right architecture matters so much now. The world doesn't have an excess of anything to squander. And so we have to be really, really, we use this concept called co-design across our entire stack, across the frameworks and models, across the entire data center, even power and cooling optimized across the entire supply chain in our ecosystem. And so each generation, our economic contribution will be greater, our value delivered will be greater, but the most important thing is our energy efficiency per watt is going to be
energy efficiency
every single generation. With respect to growing into continuing to grow, our customers' financing is up to them. We see the opportunity to grow for quite some time. And remember, today most of the focus has been on
yes, Roger. There is a 6 p.m. video.
And one of the areas that is really misunderstood about the hyperscalers,
I had a feeling the market might gap up.
So on just NVIDIA GPUs,
I'd forewarn you guys.
Not only
fishing. We're in Unisearch.
Improves their scale, speed, and cost.
Stocks under $10
from general purpose computing. That's number one, because Moore's law has
out of the 30 stocks I scanned through.
Really
not that long a video.
Moore's law is about driving cost down. It's about deflationary cost, the incredible deflationary cost of computing over time. But that has slowed. Therefore, a new approach is necessary for them to keep driving the cost down. going to NVIDIA GPU computing is really the best way to do so. The second is revenue boosting in their current business models.
Well, Akshay, if NVIDIA gaps up, a lot of them will gap
drive
up.
The world's hyperscalers. Every single, whether it's watching short form videos or recommending books or recommending the next item in your basket to recommending ads to recommending news it's all about recommenders. The internet has trillions of pieces of content. How could they possibly figure out what to put in front of you in your little tiny screen unless they have really sophisticated recommender systems to do so? Well, that has gone generative AI. So the first two things that I've just said, hundreds of billions of dollars of CapEx is going to have to be invested, is fully cash flow funded. What is above it, therefore, is agentic AI. This is revenue, is net new consumption, but it's also net new applications. And some of the applications I mentioned before, but these new applications are also the fastest growing applications in history. Okay, so I think that you're going to see that once people start to appreciate what is actually happening under the water, if you will, from the simplistic view of what's happening to CapEx investment, recognizing there's these three dynamics. And then lastly, remember we were just talking about the American CSPs. Each country will fund their own infrastructure. And you have multiple countries, you have multiple industries. Most of the world's industries haven't really engaged agentic AI yet, and they're about to. All the names of companies that we're working with, whether it's autonomous vehicle companies or digital twins for physical AI for factories, and the number of factories and warehouses being built around the world, just the number of digital biology startups that are being funded so that we could accelerate drug discovery. All of those different industries are now getting engaged, and they're going to do their own fundraising. And so don't just look at the hyperscalers as a way to build out for the future. You got to look at the world. You got to look at all the different industries, and enterprise computing is going to fund their own industry.
The next question comes from Ben Reitzes with Melius. Your line is open.
Hey, thanks a lot. Jensen, I wanted to ask you about cash. Speaking of $500 billion, you may generate about $500 billion in free cash flow over the next couple of years. What are your plans for that cash? How much goes to buyback versus investing in the ecosystem? And how do you look at investing in the ecosystem? I think there's just a lot of confusion out there about how these deals work and your criteria for doing those, like the Anthropic, the OpenAIs, et cetera. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, appreciate the question. Of course, using cash to fund our growth. No company has ever grown at the scale that we're talking about and have the connection and the depth and the breadth of supply chain that NVIDIA has. The reason why our entire customer base can rely on us is because we've secured a really resilient supply chain, and we have the balance sheet to support them. When we make purchases, our suppliers can take it to the bank. When we make forecasts and we plan with them, they take us seriously because of our balance sheet. We're not making up the offtake. We know what our offtake is. And because they've been planning with us for so many years, our reputation and our credibility is incredible. And so it takes really strong balance sheet to do that, to support the level of growth and the rate of growth and the magnitude associated with that. So that's number one. The second thing, of course, we're going to continue to do stock buybacks. We're going to continue to do that. But with respect to the investments, this is really, really important work that we do. All of the investments that we've done so far, is associated with expanding the reach of CUDA, expanding the ecosystem.
Expanding the ecosystem.
If you look at the work, the investments that we did with OpenAI, it's, of course, that relationship we've had since 2016. I delivered the first AI supercomputer ever made to OpenAI. And so we've had a close and wonderful relationship with OpenAI since then. And everything that OpenAI does runs on NVIDIA today. So all the clouds that they deploy in, whether it's training and inference, runs NVIDIA, and we love working with them. The partnership that we have with them is one so that we could work even deeper from a technical perspective, so that we could support their accelerated growth. This is a company that's growing incredibly fast, and don't just look at what is said in the press. Look at all the ecosystem partners and all the developers that are connected to OpenAI, and they're all driving consumption of it. And the quality of the AI that's being produced, huge step up since a year ago. And so the quality of response is extraordinary. So we invest in OpenAI for a deep partnership in co-development to expand our ecosystem and to support their growth. And of course, rather than giving up a share of our company, we get a share of their company. And we invested in them in one of the most consequential, once-in-a-generation company that we have a share of. And so I fully expect that investment to translate to extraordinary returns. Now, in the case of Anthropic, this is the first time that Anthropic will be on NVIDIA's architecture. The first time Anthropic will be on NVIDIA's architecture. This is the second most successful AI in the world in terms of total number of users. But in enterprise, they're doing incredibly well. Claude Code is doing incredibly well. Claude is doing incredibly well all over the world's enterprise. And now we have the opportunity to have a deep partnership with them and bringing Claude onto the NVIDIA platform. And so what do we have now? NVIDIA's architecture, taking a step back, NVIDIA's architecture, NVIDIA's platform is the singular platform in the world that runs every AI model. We run OpenAI, we run Anthropic, we run xAI. Because of our deep partnership with Elon and xAI, we were able to bring that opportunity to Saudi Arabia, to the KSA, so that Humane could also be a hosting opportunity for xAI. We run xAI, we run Gemini, we run thinking machines. Let's see, what else do we run? We run them all. And so, not to mention, we run the science models, the biology models, DNA models, gene models, chemical models, and all the different fields around the world. It's not just cognitive AI that the world uses. AI is impacting every single industry. And so we have the ability, through the ecosystem investments that we make, to deeply partner on a technical basis with some of the best companies, most brilliant companies in the world. We're expanding the reach of our ecosystem, and we're getting a share and investment in what will be a very successful company, oftentimes once in a generation company. And so that's our investment thesis.
The next question comes
All right,
from
that'll be
Jim
enough questions.
Schneider
What do you think,
with
Joey?
Goldman Sachs.
I think that'll be
Your
good.
line is open.
He gave us his explanation. Let's go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my question. In the past, you've talked about roughly 40% of your shipments
got
tied.
Things going on this evening. No, as far as the video, as far as the commentary here, I think you did a pretty good job. Calming the market and bringing some, some confidence back into the AI trade. I mean, the one thing I got from it, and not just this call, but the prior earnings calls. We've done this before here. The amount of companies, the amount of industries across the board, and like Jensen said, there's a lot of industries out there that have not taken that step yet to agentive AI, right? But now they're going to. As long as their chips are such high demand, I don't see the story stopping. I'll be honest there with that. And Bill, you had mentioned Navitas being up after. That's why I was looking at it on the chart here. I didn't hear that partnership mentioned in the earnings call, but they did form a strategic partnership. It was it the 800 volt digital current system. Essentially, they use like a gallium kind of thing. But it's very interesting, very energy efficient. You see the stocks up on it today. So a lot of these general AI plays are going to show some momentum to the upside right now. Bring back the live call. No, we won't be finishing that out. We're going to be wrapping up here in just a minute. But Bill, yeah, it's just looking at that stock, Bill. Be careful on it. I really want to see the follow through tomorrow. This one, it broke its trend line as well. Retested it, got rejection. You can see it's coming back up right now. So just be careful on this one. I still like the stock overall. It's way overvalued though, so it's going to be more of a speculative play. So just wanted to be fair and tell you about that. But that being said, if we take a look at Nvidia, it's trading at 194. You can see it's been pretty range bound around 194. That's kind of where we started this call at. But look at price action. It did hit a high. If I use a date line here, let's actually use a horizontal line. Looked like the enthusiasm stalled out around 198. So stalled around 198. All right, on that note, we are going to wrap up here. You guys enjoy your evening. Tomorrow, Nvidia is struggling. Oh, Walter, we know you're bearish on Nvidia. You're one of the few in there. Just stay disciplined on the trade, right? Stay disciplined on the trade. If there's any follow through, it looks like most likely a gap up for what we're seeing right now. Just stay disciplined. I am seeing that head and shoulders possibly forming. We're not quite there to be talking about it, but yes, I do see that. That would be got a shoulder, head, potentially could be another shoulder here, right? So that's why I want to see the follow through, because we got a nice long uptrend. Last thing I want to see is a head and shoulder pattern. But me personally, with the BSR and the MTI, we'll see. But I think Nvidia might have just given the markets the ammunition they needed for their rally. We'll find out tomorrow. Again, don't act prematurely. Stay disciplined and listen to the color guard. And if you're not a subscriber and you're new, this is your first time checking out the channel, check out the trial right now through the holiday season. You get it for 99 cents, 30 days, cheaper than a cup of coffee. On that note, everyone, enjoy your evening. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow for Trending Thursday. Take care. Bye.